The conversation dives into the surprising discovery of Kratom's historical significance. The host expresses amazement at how such a beneficial plant remained under the radar. It's as if they're uncovering a hidden gem that has always been there, waiting to be found.
It's crazy finding out about something that's been helping people for thousands of years. How did I miss this?
The discussion shifts to the DEA's stance on Kratom. The guest suggests that the DEA may not be as villainous as many perceive. They believe the agency's reaction is not intentionally hostile, but rather a reflection of its initial unawareness of Kratom's widespread use.
I don't think the DEA is this big monster. They just weren't aware of how many people use Kratom happily. Their response has been pretty reasonable.
The conversation touches on community efforts to influence regulatory change through kratomcommons.org. The host urges listeners to participate, highlighting the urgency as the deadline approaches.
Get to it, everyone. The deadline's right around the corner. kratomcommons.org.
The guest paints a vivid picture of the diverse community supporting Kratom. They describe meeting unexpected allies, from mothers to grandmothers, showcasing how Kratom unites different demographics.
I've met so many unexpected people in the Kratom community, like mothers and grandmothers. They were like my mom, which I didn't expect.
As filming for a Kratom documentary concludes, the guest remains optimistic about engaging more prominent figures to support their cause. Bernie Sanders and others are mentioned as key voices striving for change.
We're almost done shooting. We're working on editing and hoping to get a few minutes with Bernie or others. They're important for this.
The guest hopes to engage the DEA and FDA in a constructive dialogue, offering interviews to allow these agencies to express their perspectives.
I hope the DEA and FDA would sit with us. I want them to speak their mind, not to ambush anyone.
Today's discussion delves into the complexities surrounding Kratom and similar substances. Despite its potential benefits, Kratom often faces stigma, unlike more socially accepted substances such as alcohol and tobacco. This underscores the role media plays in shaping public perception, highlighting the need for informed, fact-based narratives.
That is safe. We know. It's 100% safe. I mean, you could definitely take too much of it. Just like you were saying, you could take too much Kratom. You can get too high and freak out.
Kratom, according to the guest, is a natural remedy that deserves the same consideration as other stimulants. He questions society's bias against it.
We have alcohol on the market that makes people feel better. We have cigarettes and tobacco, and that makes people feel better. They get a little buzz from it or whatever. Why not Kratom?
I love it. I think it should be legal, and I think that if Kratom's in the same league as coffee and Starbucks is the biggest business in our country, why is it so bad?
The guest highlights the dire need for government-funded research, especially given the opioid crisis and unexplored plants like Akiyuma and soursop that could offer solutions.
There's not enough data, there's not enough research, and that's what we want to do.
Legal confusions and arrests associated with Kratom illustrate the consequences of misinformation.
You tweeted something about someone getting arrested, like some big drug bust where they busted him for Kratom, which wasn't even illegal.
As the conversation wraps up, the guest calls for clarity that can emerge from unbiased research, potentially optimizing outcomes and guiding policy changes. The conversation begins with the chaotic effects of substances like flocka and spice, drawing shocking comparisons to scenes from films. The guest and host delve into how these unregulated substances quickly face bans.
Yeah, see, like, what the fuck? This is someone on flocka? Holy shit, do you imagine? That's like that movie, he goes flying off the car, back into the car. It's amazing.
Oh my God, it's like the most entertaining video I've ever seen. So even if it's not real, I love it.
However, the dialogue shifts to Kratom, which holds a more complex legal status due to the Deshay Act, allowing many supplements legal status pre-1994 to continue being sold.
But when Kratom was put on the market, it wasn't to get away with it. It's been in, there's a law called the Deshay Act. Deshay is basically the Dietary Supplement Health Something Act. Anything before 1994 gets grandfathered and is legal. In Florida, they've been selling it for 30 years. We summoned the records for importation of Kratom.
The guest emphasizes efforts to prove Kratom's established presence in the U.S. They illustrate how political motivations can obscure understanding of Kratom's benefits.
What a strange predicament. It's very unusual that there's something that's this well loved by the people that are taking it.
The guest notes resistance, mainly from individuals who might have their political motivations misaligned with facts.
There's few people really dead set against it. There's a congresswoman in Florida dead set against it because they want to boost their election.
A powerful anecdote from the guest tells of a mother whose child was born addicted to opiates. The mother's successful use of Kratom presents an alternative narrative.
I did interview a girl in Washington, D.C. who said her baby was born addicted to opiates. Now she takes Kratom, she's fine, and she's not going to relapse.
The dialogue underscores a crucial need for informed perspectives on Kratom, cutting through political rhetoric to focus on real-world impacts and testimony. In a captivating conversation, the guest delves into why Kratom remains illegal in Thailand, emphasizing its impact on the opium trade. This scenario draws parallels with the United States, where similar economic factors influence substance policies.
I wasn't jonesing for Kratom. I didn't take it for 2 weeks because it's illegal there. So there was a reason not to. The last thing I want is to end up in a Thai prison.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
The guest sheds light on how Kratom began to undercut opium profits, leading to its illegal status, a situation mirrored by pressures in the US.
The reason why it's illegal in Thailand is because it was cutting into the opium profits. Instead of opium, people were taking it.
That's probably exactly the same pressure over here, but pills.
They kept it illegal because it was cutting into the money. I think Kratom's more illegal than opium, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Although Kratom's legal challenges continue, the guest emphasizes his unbiased stance, focusing on safety rather than profits.
To me, the whole thing is interesting because I completely get the other side. I don't want anybody taking something that's unsafe, but I don't make a dime from selling Kratom.
If anybody would have an interest in not promoting something that's addictive, it would be a guy like you.
Despite the absence of long-term studies, existing research supports Kratom's potential in addressing addiction.
There's not any long-term studies to show that Kratom is good in the long term, but we can go by the evidence that we do have. They've done a lot of studies in mice, and none of the mice die. The #1 opiate addiction study was at University of Mississippi. Christopher McCurdy feels this could be the savior for the opiate epidemic.
Balancing safety with potential therapeutic benefits, the guest advocates for an evidence-based approach, highlighting Kratom's role in possibly combating the opiate crisis. The conversation explores the complexities of Kratom regulation, highlighting voices like Mark Pocan who advocate for its legalization amidst political resistance and advocating for consistent policies.
It's disingenuous how politicians pretend to care, yet no one talks about cigarettes anymore.
Exactly, just like Kratom and wine, both have a self-limiting mechanism. If you overindulge, you'll feel awful and learn to moderate.
The guest suggests both Kratom and wine deter overuse, requiring a balance between personal responsibility and legislative restrictions. Packaging and safety are also critical issues.
I had a terrible experience with a Kratom extract. Misleading packaging is why proper regulation is crucial.
Attention turns to inconsistencies in availability and the need for formal dietary supplement approval due to insufficient research.
Most Kratom is mislabeled, not for human consumption. There's a company in Vegas doing it right, but they're rare.
Can people actually buy it?
Yes, especially in places like Vegas. But the owner made millions without following the full process, raising questions about legality.
Behind Kratom's legal haze are pharmaceutical and political pressures, resisting its acceptance.
Grieving parents and certain Congress members oppose it. No one in Big Pharma will openly say they're making it a drug.
The discussion advocates for clear regulations to align public health and societal views, acknowledging the socio-political dynamics affecting Kratom's future. Chris opens up about his journey with addiction and the role Kratom played in his recovery. He discovered this plant native to Southeast Asia during his search for alternatives to prescription pills. Kratom, he explains, offers benefits similar to opioids but without the high.
A while back when I was hooked on pills, I came across Kratom. It's a 100% natural plant from Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. It works sort of like an opioid, but it's not a drug.
So you're saying it's not a drug, though?
Well, it's semantics. It's been around for 2,000 years. No one's ever done any studies on it being a drug. There have been studies as a supplement.
The conversation turns to the government's attempts to classify Kratom as a Schedule I drug. Chris argues that lack of comprehensive studies should not lead to its prohibition. He shares his personal experience, highlighting its positive effects on his sobriety and life path.
Now that I got sober and started taking Kratom, I feel great. My entire career is skyrocketing.
Wow, that sounds crazy. So it mimics the effects of opioids?
Sure, people feel like they're indestructible. Opiates were ruining my life.
The host relates by sharing his own negative experience with opioids post-surgery. This shared understanding underscores the need for alternative solutions like Kratom.
I took Vicodin once for knee surgery. I hated it.
Chris's narrative exemplifies the potential of Kratom as a bridge to sobriety. yet he acknowledges the complexities involved in its regulatory scrutiny. His advocacy emphasizes the importance of a balanced dialogue to preserve Kratom's cultural heritage and explore its benefits within modern healing practices. Through his documentary, Chris aims to raise awareness, fostering understanding and responsible integration of traditional knowledge into contemporary contexts.
Sure, but a big part of addiction, you gotta remember, is that we relapse. People relapse. If you can have something, it actually helps with alcohol withdrawals and alcohol cravings.
In the evolving landscape of pain management and addiction recovery, Kratom emerges as a compelling alternative. Chris, an advocate for its benefits, shares insights from both personal experience and political discussions. Chris acknowledges the stigma surrounding Kratom, often misunderstood due to its association with opiate receptors. However, he stresses that unlike traditional opiates, Kratom does not bind as strongly, reducing the risk of dependency.
That seems really bizarre that you would have a problem with drugs and then this would help you. I would think that if you have a problem with drugs, you would want to stay away from anything that's sketchy.
Despite skepticism, Chris details the diverse strains of Kratom, each designed for various uses.
There are different strains of it. There's a strain called Bali, which is supposed to be good for anxiety and kind of calm you down. There's a strain called Green Malay, which is a good pre-workout.
That's so strange to me. I thought they were going to tell me about an opiate type of effect, that it just mellows you out, but it doesn't.
His personal commitment to Kratom comes from a desire to manage pain without resorting to pharmaceuticals.
Not right now because I took Kratom before I came here, but I would normally be in a lot of arthritic pain.
Chris also highlights the political support for Kratom, referencing his conversation with Senator Mark Pocan, who advocates for its legality.
When I went to interview Senator Mark Pocan, he wants to keep Kratom legal. He thinks that it should be allowed for everyone. And it was the first time I was ever in the presence of someone from the government saying that.
Navigating this gray area, Chris champions Kratom as a natural alternative amidst a complex narrative of pain management. The ongoing debate about Kratom's potential classification as a Schedule I drug highlights a complex intersection between advocacy and regulatory concerns. At the heart of this conversation is the pressing need for research to underpin any decisions regarding its legal status.
So where's the pressure coming from to turn this into a Schedule I drug? There's no LD50 rate on this stuff, right?
Chris, the guest, addresses the misconception that Kratom has been responsible for overdose deaths, clarifying that the reported cases involve individuals on multiple psych medications. One story stands out about a mother attributing her son's suicide to Kratom, despite his use of 3 different medications with black box warnings.
There have been 0 deaths directly from Kratom. The mother wanted to blame Kratom, but the truth is, he was also on or withdrawing from other psych meds.
Chris urges for comprehensive research to explore Kratom's benefits and safety, particularly its potential as an alternative in tackling the opioid crisis. Despite anecdotes and personal experiences supporting Kratom's efficacy, particularly among veterans suffering from PTSD, regulatory bodies like the FDA and DEA remain uncertain.
I get why she's upset, but looking for blame doesn't change the facts.
I respect her loss, but I've been using Kratom for a year, and I've seen its benefits firsthand. We can't ignore the research, or the lack of it.
Regulatory challenges and power dynamics between the DEA and FDA complicate Kratom's legal status. With the FDA's inaction, the DEA has considered a ban, prompting public outcry and petitions defending Kratom's use.
The DEA wanted an 8-point inspection from the FDA, which didn't happen, so they considered a ban. But voices like Andrew Turner, a veteran who struggles without Kratom, have made an impact.
Chris's dialogue underscores the potential of Kratom, not just as a substance for personal use, but as a beacon for change in the opioid epidemic, provided thorough research and dialogue persist. In a spirited discussion, the guest reveals a unique perspective on tackling the opiate crisis. His advocacy for Kratom as both a dietary supplement and a drug aims to shed light on its potential positive impact.
If you can make something out of Kratom that's going to help a lot of people, what's the big problem if it could be both? Let them make their money, but keep it legal for us.
The guest shares insights from his documentary work, emphasizing authenticity over commercial gain. He aims to raise awareness about Kratom amidst controversy and legal challenges.
I started doing the documentary going like, is this going to be a movie or is this more like an infomercial? I wanted to be very honest about what this product does.
The debate surrounding Kratom's legality actually boosts its visibility and public interest.
The ban and the controversy is the best thing because now people know about it. As long as it doesn't get banned, we're okay.
Yeah, like in Prescription Thugs, you started taking pills during a documentary on pill addiction. Either blessed or cursed, right?
Using documentaries as a tool, the host notes the guest's knack for manifesting awareness on critical issues. His commitment to illuminating hidden truths resonates through his work.
The reason I do all my documentaries is because we have the power to change the way people think and open up minds about things they might not know.
The conversation also touches on pharmaceutical accountability. The guest critiques inadequate fines for companies like Purdue Pharma, pointing out that financial interests often overshadow public health needs.
Purdue Pharma admitted they got all these people addicted and lied to doctors. They got fined a tiny percent of what they made.
With an eye on driving change, the conversation underscores the necessity for governmental intervention to hold pharmaceutical companies accountable, advocating for more than. The conversation centers around the ongoing struggle for Kratom's legality, highlighting the guest's personal experiences with legal challenges. Despite concerns, he chooses to stand firm rather than discard boxes of Kratom at home for a documentary.
It's a weird problem. I had giant boxes of Kratom in my garage, and I just thought, what if the cops come and bust me while I'm making a documentary? But I decided to keep them, thinking it would be ridiculous for them to arrest me because it's all documented.
The guest feels a responsibility to highlight how Kratom benefits individuals, especially veterans, as an alternative to opioids. He argues against banning Kratom, which could push people back onto harmful substances.
A vet I know cannot live without Kratom. If we ban it, he's at risk of going back to opiates. This documentary is crucial, not just for Kratom, but to show how the DEA and FDA operate. It's greed, not safety, that's at the heart of this push.
We see these kinds of compromises all the time, where government branches are influenced by corporate interests. Kratom seems like another example of that.
The guest emphasizes the public's role in influencing policy, urging people to submit their opinions to the DEA through a specific website before the deadline.
Everyone needs to visit kratomcomments.org. You can submit up to 5,000 words about Kratom. It's crucial to get comments in by December 1st, or the DEA won't have to read them.
Kratom faces potential scheduling alongside dangerous synthetic drugs like Flocka. The guest notes an extraordinary public response, with over 100,000 people signing a petition.
They plan to make Kratom Schedule 1. It's lumped with synthetic drugs like spice, but the public response was overwhelming. The DEA isn't used to seeing that.
The discussion moves to Kratom's legal battles across several states, detailing challenges based on safety and child protection concerns.
There are state laws against it. There's 6 states, I believe, that have banned Kratom. Wisconsin's one of them, Tennessee, Alabama. They cite deaths, danger, and kids taking it. But you know, everything's about protecting the children, yet no one in the industry has called for age restrictions.
The guest critiques the lack of transparency from the FDA and DEA, sharing his frustrations over opaque practices.
The FDA's never even come and talked. It's impossible to talk to the FDA or DEA. I just spoke to the spokesman for the DEA last week, Melvin Patterson. We pay their salaries. There just needs to be more transparency.
The dialogue shifts to the difficulties in reclassifying substances legally, lamenting the challenges posed by Schedule 1 status.
When something hits Schedule 1, it's impossible. There was talk about the DEA removing marijuana from Schedule 1 and they backed out. No medicinal value? Marijuana is shown to cure some cancers.
It's a weird rabbit hole for you to have started with something you found beneficial, only to face this.
The conversation pivots to comparing Kratom's safety against pharmaceuticals like Vioxx, emphasizing the importance of funding natural remedy research.
I knew a young guy who had a stroke from Vioxx. There were 55,000 deaths from Vioxx. In Kratom, 0. Marijuana, 0. We need to start dumping our money into researching these plants instead of letting pharma companies focus solely on profits.
Sounds like they're using those algorithms for more than just creating meds. It's like they're working the stock market.
Concerns around pharmaceutical companies' influence on Kratom's classification are discussed, suggesting profit-driven motives may overshadow health priorities.
Who's pressuring the DEA to turn this stuff into a Schedule I drug, and why Schedule I? There's a couple patents that are on the alkaloids that are in the plant, so I think that big pharma would be the first place to look.
The guest argues against making natural substances illegal in favor of synthetic drug development, citing the antiquated nature of such laws.
I don't look at it as being that bad, but why make the organic Kratom illegal in order to turn this into a more powerful drug? They think that they can extract some of these alkaloids, right?
Maybe. For various reasons, yeah. But I'm worried about him when it comes to being compromised by Big Pharma. I really am. It's such a business-oriented administration.
The guest reflects on their journey from opposing marijuana to criticizing prescribed medications' addictive potential.
I was 100% against it ever since I was in college. I just thought, marijuana, wow, that's the worst thing. And come to find out, it's all the drugs that the doctors actually prescribe us that are the devil.
He addresses the severity of the opioid epidemic and the importance of recognizing addiction as a significant issue.
How many people have to get addicted before you recognize that it's a problem? That is a giant problem in this country. We lose a person to addiction every 19 minutes in this country. Accidental overdoses.
The guest advocates for Kratom, using his documentary to show its potential in reducing dependency on medications.
In the film, we show a guy who has not a huge habit, but 6 Vicodin a day habit. And he cuts that down to 0 using Kratom. And we watch that process because I feel like that's important to show that, like, hey, you can act.
The impact of perception in addiction recovery is profound. The guest recounts a life-changing conversation with his father that transformed his awareness of his addiction.
I had a conversation one day with my dad. I'll never forget it. He said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I think you're a drug addict or an alcoholic. And I thought, you know what, man? He's right.
This moment of confrontation ignited self-awareness and acceptance, crucial steps in his rehabilitation journey.
It was my dad being disappointed in me. That conversation really shook me to the core because he yelled at me, and he never yelled at me.
The narrative highlights how truth, when delivered by someone significant, can dismantle denial and spark change. The discussion extends to the contentious perception of Kratom in addiction recovery. There are contrasting views and marketing strategies that contribute to confusion.
Well, I'm hoping that as time goes on, we're starting to understand that it is impossible for your doctor to know all the ramifications of any drug.
A doctor I met shared how his son successfully used Kratom to recover from heroin addiction. He's been happier than ever, and this doctor supports its use.
Despite anecdotal successes, skepticism remains, often fueled by rehab centers marketing Kratom as addictive.
You got to understand, the reason rehabs claim Kratom is bad is for marketing. They're filling their doors telling you Kratom's bad.
The conversation challenges the misinformation about addiction and recovery, emphasizing a balanced understanding.
The problem with telling someone they have a problem is they start thinking, damn, I have a problem.
Yeah, and then sometimes you try to hide it more. As an addict, I was like, okay, now they're on me. I better hide this.
The conversation shifts to the misunderstandings surrounding Kratom, often mischaracterized due to loaded terms. The guest challenges exaggerated claims about its effects.
I think if I took, 50 pills a day, that would be abusing it. I maybe take 6 pills a day, maybe at the most 10. And even the term pill is a weird word because what you're basically taking is powdered plants.
Well, drug is such a weird word because it covers too many different effects. It covers stimulants, depressants.
The guest critiques myths like skin darkening, traced to outdated studies, and questions exaggerated withdrawal symptoms listed online.
That's an effect, a negative effect. Well, you know where that comes from? Darkening of the face and the skin? It comes from in Thailand when they did the study in 1975. They were researching the workers out in the fields.
Here's where it gets really weird. Withdrawal effects of Kratom are very similar to those of opiate like heroin or prescription painkillers. Let's hear those.
The focus shifts to Kratom's potential in recovery, emphasizing the complementary nature of traditional therapy and Kratom use.
You take this, and you go to AA meetings, and you go to whatever works for you. Counseling. Yeah, you go to counseling, you go to a therapist.
Here in large font it says, Narconon can help the person who is addicted to Kratom in large words.
Highlighting the emotional challenges of addiction, the guest emphasizes the need for diverse recovery tools beyond costly rehabs.
I was addicted to opiates, and I would drive around my car crying. I'll be crying saying, I just want help. My brother was dying.
Kelly Dunn's passionate commitment to providing natural alternatives like Kratom shines through as a grassroots movement gains momentum. He owns Urban Ice and believes in Kratom's potential to fill the gap for those who can't afford traditional rehab options.
We don't really know. My friend Kelly Dunn, who owns the company Urban Ice, actually bought a farm up in Washington. It's his intent that if people don't have money for rehab, they can come up and get Kratom.
Guest shares their personal health journey. Initially relying on opiates for pain management, they were advised by Dr. Drew to shift to NSAIDs like Advil and Tylenol. However, a friend's adverse experience with long-term NSAID use raised concerns.
Oh, meaning non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which are Advil.
Yeah, Advil and Tylenol. I was taking like 10 Advil a day.
Concerned about potential kidney issues, Guest was introduced to Kratom by Dunn. Initially skeptical, Guest was impressed by the relief it offered during severe arthritis flare-ups after long filming sessions.
So my friend Kelly hit me up. He said, hey, you should try this plant. It might help you. My first experience was after filming for 5 hours straight. My arthritis was at its worst.
Guest describes Kratom as a plant with shiny green leaves, likened to poison ivy in appearance. There's a growing grassroots effort to encourage others to try it with hopes of it becoming as accepted as marijuana.
It's sort of this grassroots movement to try to get people to even try Kratom. The more people that try it, the better off we'll be. I really feel that with Kratom too.
You're making me want to try it. Now, what is the name? Is it a Kratom plant? What does a plant look like? Is it a tree?
It's a plant. It kind of looks like a poison ivy plant, but it just looks like any other plant. Shiny green leaves.
The narrative around Kratom emphasizes a return to natural elemental remedies. The movement, driven by personal testimony and community support, highlights the importance of preserving natural resources for solutions beyond economic and systemic limitations. In this lively discussion, the guest highlights a unique approach to cannabis consumption, focusing on adaptation and how societal views are shifting. Instead of smoking, a THC spray is preferred for pain relief, reflecting a broader trend toward edibles and sprays as more acceptable forms.
I don't like to smoke pot. I like this stuff better because I'm just so used to taking things like that. My girlfriend would flip out if I started smoking pot.
Isn't that funny? Smoking's frowned upon, but spray some stuff under your tongue and it's like, oh, just relieving pain.
The host humorously points out the societal difference in perception between smoking and using sprays or edibles, reinforcing the adaptability in these changing times. They discuss the powerful effects of edibles and the non-psychoactive benefits of CBDs.
Well, CBDs are great because they're not psychoactive at all. But watch out for edibles, they've got a different effect. That 11-hydroxy metabolite is no joke.
The guest appreciates the host for mixing science and humor in their act and encourages listeners to engage with Kratom causes while discussing a documentary called A Leaf of Faith.
You're the only comedian I've seen bring science into the act. Can you tell people about this and what else can be done? People need to go to kratomcomments.org.
And when the documentary's out, come back in and we'll talk about it. I think I dig that name. It's cool.
This exchange reflects an evolving narrative where scientific discourse and entertainment create a richer understanding of cannabis and related substances. It's a journey where perspectives blur, driven by humor and insightful dialogue. The conversation explores the guest's discovery of Kratom as relief from chronic pain and anxiety. It wasn't an instant revelation, but a gradual process over months, leading to remarkable change.
Standing on concrete floors kills you. I took the Kratom, and I was like, you won't believe it, but no pain right now. It took months to really get into it, but then suddenly it's like a miracle.
Initially skeptical, the guest experienced benefits beyond pain relief, such as lowering blood pressure and easing anxiety. This was an iterative process of rediscovery.
I don't want to get more elevated. I'll do something silly.
Yeah, but it lowers blood pressure, helps with anxiety. It won't get you to a point where you can't drive.
Misconceptions about Kratom, especially comparisons to substances like heroin, present significant challenges. A fellow AA member questioned the guest's sobriety, causing distress.
I got a call, and she said, well, I'm confused if you're sober. It hurt. To hear you're not sober from those I look up to was painful.
I can understand their worry.
I totally get it. It sounds like a heroin substitute, right? But I know it's safe enough. I've seen thousands using it, and we're making a documentary to share their stories.
This discussion highlights the importance of open conversations and shared experiences in overcoming societal misunderstandings. Kratom's perception is evolving, but it requires collective awareness and nuanced understanding. The conversation delves into the significant role cultural perceptions play in shaping decisions. Our guest discusses how a father's influence sparked a personal transformation. They share how cultural values and familial wisdom impact individual choices and broader societal contexts.
Well, sometimes that's all you need is one person's opinion who you really love. My dad's been through everything, and my issues just stem from something I'm doing.
The dialogue shifts to how digital culture skews public opinion, particularly regarding Kratom. The guest points out the biases that exist in online information.
It's kind of biased right off the bat from Google. Rehab centers dominate the search results because they're paying for it.
Kratom Red on Amazon.com. They're trying to sell it to you. Oh, Kratom Red, okay. Drug abuse, Kratom effects. Narconon,
The host injects humor, highlighting unexpected connections like Narconen's ties to Scientology. The guest elaborates on the misconceptions surrounding Kratom, often wrongly blamed for deaths that actually involve multiple substances.
If it's only in combination with other pharmaceuticals, that sounds crazy. There are no deaths solely due to Kratom.
They then shift focus to global perspectives, revealing cultural clashes and legal differences.
It's funny that you bring up Thailand because they're using Thailand as an example here. More than 13,000 people were arrested for Kratom-related crimes.
That's just because it's illegal in Thailand to preserve the opiate industry. They conveniently ignore that.
These discussions underscore how diverse cultural frameworks can shape, misinterpret, and transform understandings of substances like Kratom. This highlights the ongoing dialogue across regions, cultures, and ideologies.